Welcome to the first episode of the 2024 season of the Artists and Emotions podcast. I'm your host, Cody Alexander Curtis, and out of all the guests that I have had on this podcast before, today's guest is somebody who I have been trying to get on for the past couple of months, basically since I've started this. And it's somebody who I have a very close relationship with because I consider this individual to be my best friend. This is Zach Pope. He is a film critic, he is a video game critic, and he has had a lot of experience in terms of just, let's just say, movies in general. That I think that's the simplest way to put it before we sort of get into this thing. Zach, how are you doing?
I'm great. I was going to ruin your take, but it was so good, so I decided not to.
Yeah,
But I'm very excited to be here, man. I know we're both very busy people, so I'm happy that our schedules align to be able to do this. I love what you've been doing, and I'm very excited to talk about this because movies are my life, and I know what you're doing here is about the creative. And a lot of your guests, I don't think, are from the film criticism space yet. So I have a different point of view than per se all your other guests so far.
yeah. No, I mean, that's for sure. And one thing we need to just we just need to start out from the very, very beginning because something tells me this podcast episode is going to be a little bit lengthier than my previous episodes. But that's just because the kind of history that Zach and I have and the amount of stuff we've done together trying to put things in motion. So a little while ago, and by that I mean 6 years ago now, and actually I'm pretty sure it was around this time too. I started a YouTube channel, basically short history. I stopped doing anything performance wise at the tail end of 2016. And that is when I got the great idea, or I should say, my mother gave me the great idea to start talking about movies on YouTube. And basically, from that point on, uh, that's essentially what I was doing. I entered into the film criticism space and met a lot of extremely wonderful people. In terms of all the people I've met, Zach was one of those people, and he's really the only one that I've kept in touch with for the most part.
It's not his choice to stay in touch with me. I just call him like 24/7 every hour I call him.
Yeah,
And when he picks up, he knows it's going to be a conversation. So it's not by his choice. He only picks up because he knows that I'm going to bug him.
yeah, it's true. I mean, here's the thing, Zach. I'm kind of being held prisoner here. That's
Yeah,
something that you
you
guys
are.
don't know.
I
That's
I
that
actually
literally
made
I.
him I actually made him put me on this podcast. I told him if he didn't do it, I was going to show up to his house. So,
Yeah, it's true. He would show up to my house and
yep,
he would kick the crap out of me. That is the
exactly.
agreement. That's the
It's not the
agreement that we
first time.
made.
It's not the first time I've flown across the states to beat the shit out of him, then get back on a plane.
Yeah, it's yeah, it that is fair. And then there was okay. So to sort of put everything in motion, shortly after Zach and I met, we decided, hey, we wanna make something. We want to make something in the comic book realm,
And it wasn't a baby.
and it wasn't a baby. No, we made a short film. We
Yes,
made a short film
a masterpiece.
that was an absolute masterpiece. And in terms of everything out there, the title of said short film is Wolverine Meets Deadpool. Above and beyond the short film, which I'm not putting a link to that thing in here. For any of you who are curious, you can find it, but I'm gonna warn you, we had a lot of fun making it, but it is absolutely terrible. Like
Yeah, but
it was fun
this is
to
what I've
make.
always said about shorts and stuff like that. They're not great. I mean, they're not great, but I think they still help you understand the industry a little bit more. Like
Yeah,
a lot of the shorts I made even before I'd met you, I don't regret ever making any of them. I'm so happy I made them. I want to make more of them. But what it taught me was it taught me a lot of things. It taught me how to edit. It taught me how to like the filmmaking space, and then obviously afterwards then I started doing film criticism and I started learning a little bit more about how this industry works. But it's fun because that's how I feel like that's how you kind of start to learn a little bit more just by making something, even if it's crap.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that, and to sort of break that down a little bit later, but just to sort of round up the history that Zach and I have, uh, in terms of being in the YouTube and in the film criticism space, we collaborated a bunch. We tried to get a game show off of the ground, but then
It
after
worked. It was
it,
good.
it
The
was
first 2
very
episodes were good. It's just really hard to get people together.
yeah, it's scheduling was a problem. Also, the amount of work
Editing.
and specifically special effects editing that had to go into that particular show was it was difficult. And by difficult, I mean extremely difficult. Each episode required at least I would say at least a full 2 weeks worth of work just to put an episode together, and that's
Yeah.
a full week like, a full 2 weeks of, like, 10 hours of editing each day of trying to putting it together. It
So, we also did an award show too.
Yeah, we did, and that also went very, very well. It was really nice. For those of you who aren't aware, who aren't used to or have an understanding of what the film criticism space is like on YouTube, for the longest time, I would say 2010 until about 2020, the film criticism space in terms of creating their own award shows, it was something that was very prevalent at the end of every single year. And if it wasn't in groups or collaborative like what me and Zach did, it was something that individual channels on YouTube would do. So we did an award show. We made a short film. We talked a lot. At one point we talked about wanting to get like an actual studio off the ground, but unfortunately scheduling and finances and everything, it's just something that I couldn't really come together at all. And then the award show, we just got a lot. And even after all of this stuff either stopped or fell through, Zach and I have really just stayed in contact. And you talked a bit about your experience making shorts, and I sort of want to turn it back over to you and let's just learn about how you got your start, because you said you always loved and enjoyed movies, but I know for me one aspect I don't know about you is the amount of time that you spent trying to make short films and getting those things off the ground.
So it's kind of funny. I don't I've done like fan pages and stuff like that related to movies, but I really didn't come out of my shell on movies and stuff till after I graduated high school because people are bullies, people are assholes, which is funny now
Yeah.
because a lot of those people that I wouldn't say bullied me per se, but like wouldn't be my friend because I like movies, are huge movie fans. Like, and I think that's one thing I've always said is that movies like bring people together and that's a big aspect of it. But I always wanted a way to do something. And don't ask, I do not remember how this came about, but I wanted to make a short. Um, and my cameraman you met, and really close friend to me, I was super close with him and his girlfriend. We're all best friends, and I was like, why don't we just shoot something? I was doing some research that you have an iPhone. A lot of directors are using iPhones nowadays. Let's just shoot it. We have a camera. We don't have microphones, but I'll figure out how to do all of everything later. And since the short really didn't have a lot of dialogue, we didn't really need audio. It was more of we wanted to make like a post-apocalyptic thing because we were all super in The Walking Dead and The Last of Us and stuff at that time. And we made it within a night, no script. We didn't even know where it was going to end. We just knew that this guy was running away from this person and that there's a zombie and that he's scavenging, and that's it. It was a proof of concept of a way, but we made it, and we ran around, we spray painted guns, not smart, in a really ghetto neighborhood to run around with in the middle of the night. It was very, very, very dangerous, but we survived, and none of us got hurt. And we shot it within 4 or 5 hours, and that was kind of the start of everything. And like, let me pull it up. And this is the first short we did, On the Run. Now, this was actually supposed to be like it says part 1 on the thumbnail, because and it says it even in the intro. Um I was supposed to make this into a part 2, which I technically did, but then I hated the idea, so I literally re-edited it to not include anything from this. But, it was fun making this, and I started kind of just being influenced a little bit by this. Like, we used my friend's apartment, there's a zombie, all this. To be honest, the hardest part of making this was actually I did one gunshot right there if you see. This is the most impressive thing I ever did. That little blast, that took me 4 hours to do. I'll keep this up for us so we can kind of go through them. But I really loved making it. And so then I want to do a horror one next. So we did a horror one, which was fucking a disaster. Let me tell you this right now. This one, I actually took my time. I wrote a script. I did not get actual actors. I got all my friends. So I wrote the script, and the characters were my friends' personalities. They didn't really have to act. There are more elevated versions of them. And this script, so this short, there was a lot of issues with. It took us way too long. It was only supposed to take us like 2-3 hours to film, and it took us about fucking 9. A lot of it was because there was a little bit of drama, people not really taking it a little bit seriously, where I actually was. I had planned, I'd made props, I built the monster suit that I had made, and I was really trying to take this realistic, you know what I mean? The reason it's black and white, by the way, that was not when I was editing it, it was really hard to see because we didn't use lighting. We used natural lighting, but black and white for some reason worked better. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
it kind of just showed. But this short, it became more of a horror comedy in the end of the day, and I loved how it turned out. Is it great? No, it's not. This one, the audio is awful, but this was actually supposed to be, it's called What's Next. This was actually supposed to be part 2 of On the Run. But then I changed it. Don't ask why. I re-edited the whole thing. I hated it. Then I did a
Okay.
Pokemon's Go, Addicts Anonymous. This one is hilarious. It's a little too long. I'd probably re-edited a lot of it. Itsy Bitsy. This one is the one I actually did the most work on. This is the one I spent a script. I probably spent about 2-3, I want to say weeks, which is like the longest that I'd ever worked on. But it was actually like developing the scenes, developing the shots, editing. We have a really cool shot of, I wanted, because it was like her having a nightmare. So the apartment we filmed at and On the Run, it starts out there, and when she goes to bed, she wakes up at the house I was living at then. But the way that she goes back through is she actually falls into a closet, and then we edited it perfectly to where she was falling out of the closet at the other apartment. And it was like the most, that's where I was learning like editing and stuff like that. Fable Hunters, I don't, my lowest viewed video on this channel, but I don't give a fuck. This, I built a whole lore book around, Cody, a whole lore book
Okay.
about these
Okay.
creatures and monsters. I had a lot of issues with this one though, and the reason it's only episode 1 is because it didn't do so well. I wanted at least 500 views. I got 143, so I wasn't happy. Then someone asked me to make a music video for them. I actually had a lot of fun making this. I actually wanted to do more. I was supposed to do more, but this one, I actually felt very proud of how I did this entire one. To be honest with you, I was actually surprised that I did so well on this. And then there's Deadpool's Downfall, which was the final one that I made on this channel. I've done a couple other shorts, like on my actual reviewing channel. I did like Deadpool joins the Avengers, or is interviewed to join the Avengers. I've done like some other shorts, like something with my Quiet Place review. I did like a short skit within it. And I honestly miss it. And now, I know this is coming out. Like I'm in a house now. I want to make more. I have ideas. I want to do more shorts. This whole thing though is just like, I'm not going to play the audio because I don't want you to get copyright or anything. But I used the opening scene from La La Land, or the opening music from La La Land, because I was on a La La Land kick when this came out. Yeah, dude, it was a blast, and I loved making shorts, and I know you've probably made shorts, but that's the best way to get experience, in my opinion. Is there was a lot more we wanted to do. After Deadpool's downfall, we did actually sit down and write a full feature film. We estimated a budget, did all that. It again just didn't come together because everyone kind of started going in different parts of their lives. I started getting more into film criticism than I was into short films. I do one day still want to make that feature film. It's just something that I would probably have to rewrite the script because the landscape has changed. It is very Kevin Smith-esque. I think I've talked to you about it. It's very fucked up in a lot of ways. It's a horror comedy, but there's a lot of fun aspects to making everything, you know?
Yeah, I do. And I think short films is one thing, also just opening up a YouTube channel and learning the landscape. And I know that for me, in terms of where I am now with editing, that's how I learned. Like the 3 years, for those of you who don't know, from 2016 to 2019 is when I was on YouTube. And I learned so much about editing and about composition and about audio engineering and trying to just figure stuff out and networking with people during that time period. So much so that when I went into college, uh, when I went back to college, rather, I got into like an audio and video editing course. And most of the time, I was literally just sitting back and
Mhm.
I gotta think what I was doing at the time. I was either trying to learn about scripts or research or something else. But basically, everything in the class we were learning, I already knew because of what I was doing on YouTube at the time. So the professor essentially just let me sit back and do whatever I want because I was basically so ahead of everybody else at that point. And so uh, and short films were originally for me it was me and my brother doing really, really stupid skits when we were like
Mhm.
6 through the age of 10 is when we did all of our like really ridiculous jumbled stuff. And it was just, they're not good. I have tried going back and trying to locate the footage. But the thing is, for those of you who don't know, with video cameras back in the day, they weren't necessarily all digital. So you had to put in little tapes or little tracks inside of the camera that you